What's going on?
What's going on? Our hot topics, John. Hot topics here on
Topics.
the HR Stories podcast.
Not to be confused with hot tamales.
Yeah, hot tamales on the HR Stories podcast. Get your hot tamales here.
Get them here, folks. Get them here. Um, so, when this is recording, I don't know where I'll be, but when we're recording right now, I'm in Nashville. Did I tell you that? I'm in Nashville?
Yeah, I know you're in Nashville, all cozied up in a hotel.
Yeah,
Probably nice weather.
it is. It was
Well,
80 degrees this afternoon. It was beautiful.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love how you travel. You're doing leadership training. You are the leadership guru, folks. If you're looking for leadership uh, work, or you want to get some leadership for your managers or some coaching on leadership, you want to hit John up here at the HR Stories podcast, team at HR Stories. He is that guru. I, Chuck Smikian, am more on the HR compliance side, although I do like doing a number of trainings and such, but that seems to be my niche, and John is the leadership guru niche. And speaking of niches, John, we
Yeah.
talk about AI so much, and I was talking to you today before we got on about how I've been using AI, um, and so it looks like a number of companies are starting to embrace it. And one thing that came across the wires today was Citi, CITI, Citi,
Yeah.
like
City.
Citibank. Yeah. And they are requiring most of their staff to start going through artificial intelligence prompt training, right?
Oh,
So,
right.
how to prompt, how to put prompts in to get the information that you want. And they're trying to boost their company's proficiency with that technology. John, that's like 100, according to the article, 180,000 employees
Woo.
uh, that have access to use AI are
Right.
going to be going through this training. They don't require their folks to use AI training on day-to-day tasks, but it's encouraging the usage to help employees become more productive and focus more on strategic work. And I got to tell you, like and I was telling you earlier, and I'll tell our listeners, as an HR director, I have been using it. And I'm not using it like, oh, write me a memo about this and write me
Right.
a memo about that. But what I've been doing is I've been using it to help me audit benefit invoices, or help me understand in September 2024 and September 2025, here's our two invoices. Help me understand why 2025 is so much more budget impactful, right? More expensive than 2024. And rather than me going through each line of the AI is helping me slice and dice,
Yeah.
and that is saving me hours upon hours of work. So I have found it to be a very useful tool still, and I don't know. What say you?
No, I agree. I think I was saying to you. So I'm in town, and I'm in town to do a strategic planning session tomorrow, and I took the opportunity to meet with some of my coaching clients in person, which is always good. I do coaching mostly virtually, right? So I can coach anywhere, and so that's always good, and I can have clients anywhere, and so that's
Yeah.
always good. But I was talking to one of them, and they work in an accounting firm, and they are starting to use it, not to do their work. Well, I guess maybe to do a little bit of the work, but they're using for things like tracking their hours, how many hours they're working on every project, because they're a public accounting firm and everything needs to be tracked and everything needs. And she says, my client says, it's saving her all this time. At the end of the day, she just hits the button and bloop, it's all done, it's all there. And so much so that she's been a big advocate for in her area. And she's guiding other people at her level to start using it. And the shareholder that was with us in the meeting today said, I had somebody on my team that was like, I don't want to use AI. I'm not going to use it. It's just, no, it's just not. And they came back to her and said, you know what? I kind of like it. I'm starting to use it. I'm starting to get there. I still think, right? I still think we need to be really careful with it. As you know, I use it a lot for my conversations. I was sending you a bunch of messages today about systems.
Yes, yes, that was
Um,
great.
and it's still like, so tomorrow in my presentation, I was using it to help me formulate like what should be the slides, what should be there. Some of the information was wrong, right? And so you do have to go through it um, and make sure that the information is right, right? So kind of taking the time to do that. It's not like, oh, I'll just throw all this in there and it'll come out with the right information. Um, I have arguments with it, I guess, for the lack of a better word, where it values brevity, right? And so when you're like, well, I need to really tell this story, or I really need to make sure that the people that I am talking to understand this, it goes to brevity all the time, and that frustrates me on there. And so kind of looking at that can be a problem. But I think it's a useful tool, right? It's like any tool. You have to learn it. Here's the one thing that I wanted to point out, Chuck, is so I've been working with it long. We were talking about the prompts, and what I've realized, and this will be a great tool for managers to learn how to give specific instructions to employees, because when you give AI an instruction, it kind of takes it on its own unless you're very specific.
Yeah.
Right? And so learning that, and I think that's such an important thing. When we say something to an employee, they are translating that through their set of values, through what I call their advantage point, and they're making a decision what to do. And so if we're not specific enough, or we don't have the right cultural understanding, they could get it wrong. And so I think it's been a really good lesson for me to think about, what do I need to say in this particular thing? And I'm thinking more and more, how do we let managers know you have to be specific with your ask?
Yeah, no, and that's true, and that's what I think's going on with Citi is, not only they are saying, okay, you can use AI, but they're actually implementing training, and they are expecting that that training aspect of how to use AI now to grow within the next 5 years. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you are talking about right there. And I will tell you, and we'll wrap up this portion on AI and talk about one of your hot topics, but I have been using it, my HR folks and business owners, if you're not using it to kind of help you tie employee relation situations to the handbook and see if there's a policy violated, you're missing out on a lot here. But it came up with something about a policy, and I thought, okay, it was a cash handling policy. And so I said, did you get that directly from our cash handling policy, or did you just kind of make that up? And you know what it said? It said, well, it's based on my best practices for my understanding of what a cash handling policy is. I'm like, no. I needed the exact verbiage from our cash handling policy of what this violation was.
Right.
And then it said, well, could you please update the policy to refresh me? Okay, well, there you go. But that's the kind of stuff you're talking about. Boom.
You got to be specific, and you got to say, this is the data I want you to use, because it'll bring in other data.
Yes.
There, right? Yeah. So I was doing something similar to that. We had done an environmental scan, and I was asking it information, and it was like, that's crazy. So yeah. So I got another story here, another hot topic. This one's a little, well, it is what it is. And I want to talk about, and this is something that we talked about 3 or 4 months ago. So a couple years ago, companies, as you know, were in full on bidding war for talent, right? Raises were skyrocketing, 6% here, big bonuses there, anything to keep people from leaving. And we were in that time where a lot of people were quietly quitting or just leaving the company. And what they're finding now is those big bumps are stalling. So according to the conference board, planned salary increases for 2026 are holding steady at about 3.4%, almost identical to 2025. They're calling it the Great Pay Pause. Why do we have to name all these things, Chuck? Tell me that.
I know. I love that, the great pay pause. Oh, who comes up with that stuff? But
I don't know.
someone in some office in a bunker underground,
Yeah.
25 stories.
Yeah. So at first glance, that doesn't make much sense, right? So inflation is still about 3%. Housing and insurance costs keep climbing, meaning the needs of our employees, right? What they need to spend money on, it keeps climbing. And we're on the edge of a workforce cliff. And we talked about this. By 2026, the US will have fewer people actively working or looking for work than we do today. Retirements are accelerating, immigration has slowed, and younger workers simply aren't filling the gap fast enough. So,
Yeah.
with fewer people available, you would expect that wages would be going up. But that is not what's happening, Chuck. Uh, employers aren't struggling to fill as many jobs right now. Economic growth is cooling. Productivity has inched up, and companies are using technology and automation to close labor gaps instead of throwing more money at them. So, in other words, the supply of people is shrinking, but so is the demand for hiring. And I think we see that across the board when it comes to uncertain times. And I think we're in uncertain times. And I think what is happening is a lot of big companies are like, well, we're not hiring because we don't know what to expect from the economy, right? And so pay raises have flattened out even as this workforce self it contracts. The message for leaders and HR professionals is this: we're entering a new era where talent is scarcer, but budgets are tighter. This means our competitive edge won't come from paying more, it'll come from how we manage, and I think you said this earlier when we were talking, Chuck, how we manage, develop, and retain the people we already have, because pay matters, but purpose, culture, and opportunity matter more.
Yeah. No, you and I were kind of talking again off screen, and I was sharing that philosophy that when it comes to retention, if the benefits and the value, and what are some of the other things you mentioned there?
Right.
Outside of pay, right?
The benefits, how you feel respected, all of that.
Absolutely. And when those things outweigh the hassles of working at a place, and the hassles could be something as simple as my commute, right?
Yeah.
My schedule, the fact that my kids go to school in one direction, I got to go to work. There's little hassles, but as long as all those things are up high, the value that you talk about, not just pay, but the value, I'm going to stay. You're going to keep your people. But when that value is outweighed by the hassles, and my paycheck was wrong, or hey, my manager just kind of ignores me, or just little things, or just snips at me, and I don't know, you start to lose people. And so I think you're onto something there. I think people will, the 3%, 4%, as long as they feel valued and say this is what the situation is, and you did say have the communication with your folks, right?
Yeah.
Then I think most companies are going to be a-okay. They're not going to lose all their people because they only did a small raise this year.
I think one of the things, and I was I was talking to a potential client and a coaching client, and he's in a situation where he's been with the company, he's been getting those 3% raises, and he's been moving up. But he's also kind of frustrated, and I think he's frustrated not that his pay hasn't gone up, but the perceived value of what he thinks he brings to the organization isn't matching what he's getting from the organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's the same thing I was talking about, that seesaw thing in a little bit too, the perceived value there. So
and so I think kind of paying attention to that and looking at it. I think this is probably a little relief, but I think there's going to be pockets of organizations and pockets of geographical location where it's going to be harder to find people and harder to find people in certain industries. So this is going to be very specific, but I do think overall there's probably this less pressure on pay to go up than there was in 2025 or 2024, for sure.
What else you got for us today, John?
One more story, and this one just came through today. I just got it on there. So there's a company in the UK called Lumen SEO. It's a small company headquartered up there in Cardiff. And so they had a 4-day work week,
Aha.
right? And so the American Psychology Association says this: companies that implement a 4-day work week have more satisfied employees, increase well being, and are able to save money. Right? So, and we've seen this. We've seen this experiment take place, and it has really boosted productivity, really done that. In the United States, we don't have people grabbing onto this, but in a lot of other countries, there are people grabbing on it. So this company, the CEO of Lumens, makes a decision. He goes, you know what? We're going to abandon the 4-day work week.
Oh,
But,
no.
wait, no, it's not a no. They are going to the 32-hour work week.
Okay.
So instead of having to work 4 8-hour days, you have to work 32 hours.
5 days.
No,
Oh,
32 hours. So when you work is up to you. So for 3 months, we've been trialing a new way of working at Lumen SEO, where team members are to work 32 hours every week, but at any time and from anywhere. He clarifies this means any time of day, any time of week, and at home, in the office, around the globe. He said there's 5 reasons for doing this. The first reason was flexibility, right? Gives people flexibility. He believes traditional employees deserve.
this is great.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Right. The same flexibility that entrepreneurs have, right? And so kind of doing that. The second reason he had to do with the majority of the company, and listen to this one, being made up of women. There are periods during a woman's cycle where energy and the immune system are higher and lower. Flexibility allows for women to lean into and maintain a high performance around their cycle. Right? And so reason number 3, men's cycle is daily, with many men, including myself, being highest performing and focusing best early in the morning before 9 a.m. His next reason was that he wanted the company to be an attractive place to work for parents. And this flexibility will go a long way toward making the conundrum of childcare simpler. Finally, he actually wanted employees to be able to enjoy the weather. It's unpredictable to say, at least in the UK, I want Lumen CEO staff to be able to take the afternoon off in the sun without guilt or having admin process of booking leave.
Yeah. Hey, listen, who knows? Is he loony for all these reasons 1 and 2 cycles? Who cares? But I'm sure his employers are like, hey, you know what? We don't care your reasons. They sound good to me. This, that, you know.
And it'll be interesting to see how it plays off, right? Because I think it's a great concept. I think it's really fascinating. But I do think, how does the team work together, right? Because if I'm on a deadline and I get my work done at 10 a.m. in the morning, I'm on a deadline and I send out 5 emails, and those individuals are not working until the night, I have to wait until they're working to get the information I need, right? And so it's a smaller company. They have flexibility. They're doing SEO. And so I think there's possibilities to kind of make that happen and kind of do it. And they're probably working all around the globe. And so I love it. I would love to see how it plays out. Now, right? You were an entrepreneur for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur. You're working all the time. Right? You're working to get the job done. And then setting your own barriers becomes really hard. So hopefully they've given people that opportunity to kind of, how do you set those barriers? How do you have those conversations to make all that happen? So it'll be fascinating to kind of see. But how many people, and think of a tight hiring market, they're going to be like, oh, you have a job there? You were the first person, like, I'm there, right? And so I think they're going to get more people to apply for jobs, and they're going to pick up talent for sure.
Absolutely. At least that boss is thinking. And one final thing I want to leave us with has the AI bend to it. Have you heard about the Robo-boss Act? Robo-bosses. Yeah, so this is a California thing. Okay, I know we're talking a little bit of, sometimes loony stuff here and there, but this actually is a real thing. And so the governor out there actually vetoed an act that was passed by this the state houses in California. It was called the No Robo-Boss Act. He called it unfocused, overly broad, but basically what it was, it would have regulated how employers use artificial intelligence in decision making, including hiring, firing, promotion, discipline,
Oh.
and termination. So they called it the No Robo-Bosses Act, but I think what we're getting at here, just so you know, rather than what I said is where I use it to kind of, I'll put in maybe the circumstances of a situation, witness statements, and I'll have it aggregate some things, and then I'll say, hey, if this situation, what policies did this person violate? Then we make the decision, right? We as management say, okay, is this a coaching, a counseling, a termination, a suspension? We make the decision.
Right.
But I think there's a move afoot to say, hey, AI, what should I do? Or just basically AI takes it, makes the decision, and then they go forward. There's a Star Trek original series episode kind of like this, where this computer would basically say how many people needed to die based on, there was two parts of this planet at war, and it was like really crazy. And that's what a robo-boss would be. Would be basically making this stuff up, and then you have to go with what the robo-boss says. So anyways, I just want to throw that out there, something to keep on the horizon, John, for you and I, cutting edge here on the HR Stories podcast, and where there's a lesson in every story. And today there were lessons in every news story, correct, that we went over.
Yeah. Hot topics. Love it. Hot topics. Yeah. No, we have to go get out and get our hot tamales.
Hot tamales. See you next week, folks.
All right. We'll see you next week.